when somebody spills milk on your floor? Like, are you just gonna sit there and be like, "Oh man, who spilled this milk? Like, what are you guys doing?" No, you go and you wipe it up. You
Mm.
solution and it's done. Like all your problems are pretty much like that. You go figure it out, figure out how to make the most out of it. I mean, there's always bigger problems out there.
Everything is possible, just hustle, just hustle. Everything is
The
possible.
Million Dollar Hustle Podcast, where we keep it real, unstated entrepreneurship wisdom. Learn to think like a millionaire and hustle like you're broke. Here's your host, Billy the Kid, aka Billionaire.
Everything is possible, just hustle, just hustle. Everything is possible, just hustle.
Welcome to the Million Dollar Hustle Podcast, baby, where you're gonna learn to think like a millionaire and hustle like you're broke. It's your boy Billy the Kid, aka BDK, aka Billionaire. And I just got done interviewing David Bader, man, out of Lincoln, Nebraska. I want to send a shout out to him, man, because we've had a few conversations in the past. We've definitely talked, but not to this extreme. And you know, the little bits and pieces that I gathered, I wanted to get his story out there, man, as far as at least with the stuff that I'm doing, because it's a very interesting story. And this dude is just killing the game, man. He's killing it, so I can't wait for you guys to listen to today's podcast. We talked about some amazing things beyond, you know, the real estate, because one point that I want to make that I always try to, even in the mastermind and everything else that I'm doing, is your mindset has to be right. And if your mindset is not right, then you cannot do any other business, whether it's real estate, whether it's owning a coffee shop, whatever it is that you want to do. If your mindset is not straight, then you're not going to get to do it. And that's been proven. So always work on yourself. And it's something we talked about. This dude had some great mindset stuff. So I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Before we get into the show, though, we did open another spot. It is 2023, man. What are you doing to get your goals going? What are you doing differently this year than last year? What are you repeating this year from the same as last year that gave you results? And with that being said, I'm opening that spot for the mastermind. So if anybody wants to join the Get Uncomfortable Mastermind, hit me up, info at Billy the Kid, with your story and what you got going on, so that way we can look at to see if you fit the group of people that we have. Also, one-on-one coaching. If anybody's out there interested in jumping in the one-on-one coaching, it is a new year. What are you doing different this year to get you to that next level? So info at BillyTheKid.com. Overall, I'm dropping a lot of music, so follow me on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, and all that. And then if you haven't yet, The Power of Being Uncomfortable is out everywhere. But after I get all that out of my system, I'm excited, man. Today is a Thursday. I was going to say Friday, but you know what's crazy about that is that whenever you're chasing a purpose, your passion, doing what you love, you have to get so busy that you forget what day it is. And if you're not forgetting what day it is, then you're not doing those things. You're not chasing your passion. You're not chasing your purpose. You're not doing things that you love. So it's time to think about that. Become so busy that you forget what day it is. It's a big thing that and you know, thank God, like I can definitely see it. Like literally, I just had that moment right now. But the point that I want to make is next week I'm actually going to Disney World, and I'm whispering because my daughters don't know it yet. And on top of my daughters going, it's me and the wife and my two girls. We're actually surprising, not so much surprising, but we just called our moms. We just called my wife's mom and my mom for them to join. Everything paid for, and I'm bringing that up because you know, and it's right now it's closer to Christmas if you're watching this after, but I bring this up because that's what this is all about. You know, we told them, like, hey, it's, you know, middle of November, the holidays are coming. This is your gift, is you coming to us for a week to Orlando and hitting up the parks at Disney World and all that. At the end of our life, guys, this memory that we're about to go make is worth more than giving them something with material stuff. So that's why it's important, and that's why I'm letting you guys know. And one of the reasons why I started doing everything that I'm doing was to give my mom, whatever I can, and this is one way of doing that, because it is a blessing, right? Like, and I want to thank God for all the blessings that He's giving me and the wife and everybody around me, because this is the reason. This is why we do what we do. So I can't wait. I'm sure I'm going to do a vlog. So hit up YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube for that vlog. By the time this is out, then that vlog is already out too. So check it out. It's a blessing. And as of right now, we're still figuring out scheduling and all that, but as of right now, it sounds like it's going to happen with our moms. So I'm super excited, man. That's what life is all about, is making memories. That is worth more than money. Memories is worth more than material things. So, and I can't sit here and lie that because of money, we're able to do that. So that's where the argument comes in with me, where it's like, oh, money isn't everything. And it's like, it's very important. So with that being said, I'm excited. So I'll let you guys know probably on the next episode, see how it went. And again, check out the vlog, YouTube at Billy the Kid, DHAKIDD. But let's get into it, man. I'm excited for you guys to check out the interview I just got done doing with David. It is fire. Nothing but gems in this one. So check it out. Let's get it, baby. Vamonos. Welcome to the $1 Million Hustle Podcast, baby. I am excited today. I have somebody that we've talked multiple times, but we never really got to talk about our stories fully. So I am excited. David, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man.
Good. No, and thanks for coming by. I know we've been kind of going back and forth. We were having awesome conversations that I wish we were already recording prior to the recording. So I'm excited to dig in and hear what you have to say, man, because you're already predicting all kinds of crazy stuff. You're like the Kiyosaki of Lincoln.
I'll take that.
There you go.
That, I saw Kiyosaki speak a couple months ago.
Nice.
It was wild.
Where at?
Vegas.
Oh, was it that one? Was it Clever?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, I missed that one.
I couldn't believe the stuff he was saying.
Yeah.
It was wild. It was wild. I'll
some predictions.
if you need it.
What's like 3 things that stood out from just that meetup?
I mean, well, Kiyosaki said teachers are communists. And that was just wild. And he just went off on a tangent. His story is fascinating, where he was in the Marines and everything. Mm-hmm. Listening to him, listening to Ed Milet, just do one more every day. And I think that was the first time he did his speech, which he's done like numerous times since then. I think this was around April 20th, 420. We were in Vegas. And one more every day, he talked about how his dad passed away and stuff, and it was fascinating. There's a lot of good takeaways.
Yeah, his book is awesome. I heard him speak in May, I want to say, and oh man, like I'm pretty sure I had a tear coming down my eye, like after the dad,
it was impressive.
Yeah, it was powerful. And actually, let's start with that, man, because we talked a little bit about education earlier, and what's one book we have book of the week, and so I let you choose the book of the week, and it could be something we've talked about before, but what is one book that comes to your head right away that has changed your life completely, whether it's an older one or a newer one?
Well, my favorite book of all time is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and he also wrote, I think he only wrote like 2 books, which is A Path to Surrender. He kind of gets into his business more, but I think Oprah voted it the best book of all time, The Untethered Soul. But that one, it's just a mindset book, and that's the most important thing. I mean, we were talking, you can learn everything you want about real estate, and you should always keep learning, but the mindset's way more important than the knowledge.
Yeah, we were just having that conversation. We're actually having a coffee instead of beers right now. It's cold. It's like 15 degrees or something crazy out there. But we were just talking prior to recording that, yeah, if your mindset's not right, then it doesn't matter what business you want to get into. And I truly believe that because with my experience, like the music, it was the same. The construction, the real estate, the book, like every single business has been the same, and you couldn't do it without the right mindset. So if you could elaborate a little more on that.
Well, I mean, and it's something I still struggle with today. It's the scarcity mindset, like there's not going to be enough for everybody. And a lot of people think like if you make $10, somebody else is losing $10. But it's not that way. Real life ain't that way. Like the pie just keeps growing, especially when they printed trillions of dollars. Like last year they printed an insane amount of money. So like it's not a zero sum game. It's if you're doing good, you can teach me things like you're good at influence. Like I'm trying to figure out what all, because you do one good thing and influence a bunch of people, and like it's one to many. So there's I mean when you make $10, somebody doesn't lose $10.
And I feel like that comes from like where we come from, maybe our where we grew up at. It's funny, I was at my mom's the other day, and to make a long story short, one thing that hit me, like when I put a pool in my backyard, that mindset came back of like my mom telling me, "Hey, shut the water off. The bill's gonna be high, right?" And dude, it was like $50 more. Like after filling up a whole pool. So the other day, I was at my mom's helping her with her toilet. Actually, I went out there for lunch, and so I'm like, "Hey, let me look into that while I'm here or whatever." And something started happening with the water. She's like, "Oh my God, do you want to turn it off?" And I'm like, "Mom," I'm like, I told her straight up, I'm like, "Hey, you know that pool that I filled up? It was only $50. Like, yeah, $50, but in my head at that time, if I were to look back, I thought that was like $1,000 bill or something, something crazy."
Yeah, it's just bigger problems. I mean, I grew up, I mean, my dad was like literally the biggest tight ass of all time. I mean, the way he grew up, like, I mean, we're putting water in the ketchup bottles to get the last little bit out of the ketchup, when the ketchup is like 50 cents for the whole bottle back, it's like, we got to get the last bit of ketchup. I mean, I think our soap's still watered down back home, dude.
Yeah.
Like he does pretty well. I mean, I came from like middle class, maybe low middle class, but I didn't have to want anything. I mean, we had Christmas presents every Christmas, and I came from a loving family. My parents are still together. God bless them. But like my dad was literally the biggest tight ass.
Yeah. Like how do you work? Because, one action way that I've actually worked on the scarcity mindset from our past is by almost, every month, like, updating everything, like our financials and everything, and kind of seeing like, okay, we can afford, and I'll just be funny, a double Whopper instead of a Whopper, right? Like, I think I heard this on the podcast once, that it's good to update your scarcity mindset. Like, where are you at? So you know that you can eat better, you can do. So it's a struggle, man. I fight it literally every day, because also we can't forget frugality has got us where we're at.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. And there's pros and cons to everything. But like how I try to do it, and I've done a decent job of this, is just like focus so much on how can you make more money. And then you don't have to worry about all the little expenses. All of a sudden, this $50 extra water bill isn't that bad when you're making $5,000 more a month. Like, so I try to just focus on making more money, because I think my dad was just the opposite, where he was literally great at saving every little dime. I mean, we still got this boat from like 35 years ago that's in like mint condition, and he's maintained it like perfect. It saved it. I mean, the guy's just great at saving money, which is great, especially when you're doing apartments. Like, you want to cut expenses, and I've been looking at that a lot in the last month of all my everything I have going on. I'm like, we got to cut expenses. Now's a really good time to cut expenses, because it's kind of slower in the market because all these interest rates are rising. But you want to cut expenses, but you also want to just focus on how can I make more money? And every year, everybody should do this, even every quarter, like go back. How did I make the most money this quarter? What exactly happened? Like, I got this deal from this scenario, this guy brought me this happened, and then do that again. And then you keep doing that. That's what I've done over the past, 10 years. every year I try to figure out, oh, this deal was a home run. How did that happen? A lot of people think, this was just luck. It just happened. Like, I'm not going to hit that again. Well, figure out exactly how you hit that again and then try to replicate it. And you do that over and over for so long. Like, you start doing big deals, highly profitable deals, and you get paid more for your time.
Man, powerful. And it's true, because it reminds me of like just overall, like, okay, vacancies, for example, like, how do I not worry about vacancies? Buy more, like, even with rentals, for example. So I love that approach. And so I would like to hear what is your main bread and butter when it comes to real estate, because I know you do a little bit of wholesaling, you do a little flipping, you do like almost a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I put it in my head as a diversification. I like to diversify in real estate. Even like 90% of my knowledge is that's where I want to spend 90% of my money, and 90% of my knowledge is definitely real estate. But I want to, I have some big Airbnbs, I have some apartments, and then I'll always have houses. So I like to figure out what the market need is and feed the market need. Like, I've done a lot of wholesaling. Most people know me as a wholesaler, and we've wholesaled some big deals. But I also, I have 100 units or so. I mean, I'm part of some syndications. I got equity in a lot of different units. But I guess my bread and butter is still wholesaling. Just because I've been doing it for so long. Nobody was doing it when I first started. And I think everybody should at least learn to wholesale, or at least learn to acquire properties at a big discount. I mean, all wholesaling is you figuring out how to acquire properties at a big discount. If you can do that, everything else takes care of itself. Like, that solves a lot of your problems. Like, you kind of know rehab, but like, you get a house for 90 grand instead of 100 grand. Like, your rehab budget, it's okay if it gets a little out of control and you find surprises.
Yeah.
So to me, wholesaling is just the foundation of real estate investing. And if you figure out how to do that, then you have a good foundation, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah. No,
so wholesaling
for sure.
is just super important for everybody to learn how to do.
And it almost makes me think, one thing I always like to say is, like, sales marketing. I feel like if in any business that you get into, if you know sales marketing, you got it made, because literally whatever business you want to get into, that's
100%.
So I love that approach, because it's literally that concept of
that's all wholesaling is sales and marketing. So that's what it teaches you.
And you talked about 100 units. That's nothing to sneeze about, man. Like, congrats. Like, that's awesome. How, obviously, it didn't happen overnight. What was the first deal? And then what was the next step that you remember that you took from that first deal, where you're like, okay, that was the other stepping stone that got me to the 100 units?
I mean, it was a different time. It was 10 years ago, roughly. The first deal I ever did. And I was so scared, but I started like 50 grand in debt. So you can do this with no money. Like, I didn't have no money. I was charging bandit signs on a credit card that I was about ready to max out. And I was like the only one in town putting bandit signs out. So my phone would ring, and I'd like be so scared to answer it. And finally, like, this lady, I was working construction. I have a big construction background. I was doing trim in a house. I can still remember. And this lady just kept calling me and leaving me messages. And I started talking to her, and kind of developed rapport. And it was just a real cheap house in the South Bottoms. I mean, it was like a $20,000 house. And she keeps calling me. And it's like, David, I inherited this house. I have no idea what to do with it. It's just sitting vacant. The taxes, she's paying taxes on it. And it's just, breaking this lady. She had a tight budget. She was an older lady. And she's like, I know you can help me, Dave. And she's begging me to buy this 20. I was like, fine. Okay. So she called me enough times where hey, go look at the house. And I'm like, okay, well, here's what I can do. I can put it up on Zillow and see what happens. So I put it up on Zillow. So I don't own, which is probably completely illegal now. But nobody was using Zillow, and like the buyers were the problem. There was deals everywhere back then, but the buyers were the problem, which is probably where we're headed. But I put it up on Zillow, and some guy called me, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I like wrote up an assignment of contract in the car, Well, first I didn't have it under contract, so I went and got the contract from the lady after we negotiated price with the buyer and negotiated like I think it was like a $2,500 fee. And my buyer looked right at it and he's like, "Yeah, that's no problem. We'll close in a week." And that was the first deal.
Good old days, huh?
I mean, yeah, it was. I stumbled across it. It
That's
wasn't pretty,
awesome.
but I got it done. And then the second deal was a lot better, but it was the same thing. I
So
mean,
so
running bandit signs and made like 12K on the second deal. Stumbled through that thing too, but
so
I
it's
got it
safe
done.
to say that wholesaling was your start from the
Oh, for
beginning.
sure. Yeah, I didn't. I
Okay.
couldn't do anything else. I put myself in a position where I knew if I started broke and I could figure out how to make money in real estate broke, then everything else would get easier. And a lot of other investors I looked at, like the most successful ones, were the ones that started broke with no money because you have to wholesale, and then wholesaling becomes the foundation. So
Mhm.
uh, don't start broke, but like pretend like you're broke and you have no money
Yeah.
is a good way to start.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's important too to anybody that maybe they're thinking about their first deal or whatever. I would say, and you tell me, I love the pros and cons. So you tell me, but I always like to say nowadays, whether it is through wholesaling, whether it is through whatever other medium, save 30 to 50K before you jump in a deal. Because from my experience, and I'm sure you can relate to this, I've had actually not going too long ago, this literally just happened three on Sunday, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. We've finished this turnover for a rental, and flooring, everything was good to go, and of course pipe breaks, right? And those are the instances where it makes me think like, okay, we're gonna be okay, we're gonna have to go redo all the flooring, I'm sure you can
Oh
relate.
yeah.
But that's where it hits me, like, that mentality of no money at that point. Like, what would you do if all you had was the budget to finish that house, and all of a sudden here you are with a $7,000-10,000 loss or whatever. So if you could elaborate a little bit, and like I said, I usually say 30 to 50, especially nowadays with the way the dollar is.
Yeah. So elaborate on what to do when you got seven
just
grand
overall,
problem and
like
you
the
don't have
whole,
it.
because you did mention no money, but you also did say that, hey, it's good to get something, you had your wholesaling going. If anybody out there listening that maybe right now is that maybe they have $500 in their bank account, what would be a starting point for them where you could give them that nest, right, where they could feel safe, but then also go out there and do it.
I mean, there's a lot of free ways to market in today's world. I mean, you got Facebook, you got this podcast. I mean, I would listen to a bunch of podcasts, get yourself educated so you know what you're doing. I mean, there's so much free information out now. It's crazy. So, I mean, try to get into a habit. I mean, I used to wake up at 5 in the morning and read a book just because, like, I had to get out of the situation I was in because I hated being in debt. And so I would just wake up earlier and educate myself for an hour. So if you don't have any money, you should be educating yourself, carving out time in your schedule to educate yourself every day and make a new habit. Make one new habit, figure that out and then things will come.
Mm, love it. And see, and those are the things that, again, if you can't do the little things, guys, you're not going to be able to flip a house or,
Yeah.
all the other nice things that you can do, but it all starts from those little things. So I love that, man. So what was the first unit that you owned from the 100 units that you own now? So you started with the wholesale that led into a little more wholesaling. What was the first unit that had your name on it?
It was this just beautiful place down in the North Bottoms. I mean,
Great
it's
area.
rough. I think a guy may have, I don't even want to talk about that. But the lady was just real desperate to sell it. And I happened to meet, like, I was just desperate for anything because I had no money. So I started meeting with these old school investors. They had coffee every Wednesday night. And I just started, this one guy had like 15, 20 vacancies. And so I'm like, man, I can help you with that problem because I knew how to market for tenants like way better than these old school guys did. It's like, I can at least help you with the problem. And I started, helping him out. And long story short, like, he was the one who gave me the private money because I couldn't get a bank loan at the time. And he gave me private money to buy the house at a certain percentage, a reasonable percent, and then I put some money into it, and yeah, I think I got it for 55 grand. It's written at about 1,000 now,
Mm.
but it's kind of, I liked it because it was bulletproof because I'm in construction, and like these, I know I was gonna have to rent to college kids,
Mm-hmm.
and this thing's like double drywalled and all wood floors, no carpet, and these kids have yeah, an interesting story. Like they'll throw parties down there because by the stadium, it's big for tailgating. So I'm always telling them, you know, you guys gotta not throw parties and not. They're blocking off the driveway, which is half the neighbors. But
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, the tenant, I got a message because I have answering service now, and so they'll call in, and then I just get an email saying, you know what the call was about. And so I get this email, and it says, "Yeah, this is your neighbor down on North 8th Street, and your tenants crashed their car into the house, and it looks like it's gonna fall over." That was
Wow.
the email I got. I'm like, "Oh shit, I better check that out."
Oh my God.
So yeah, it wasn't that big a deal. God bless, the tenants ended up fixing it and did
And
actually a
I
pretty
feel like
nice
people
job.
always make the problem worse
Oh
than what
yeah,
it is.
yeah, they
Like,
exaggerated it.
and especially tenants. But okay, so you have an answering service. So are you self-managing right now?
Uh, I have a couple different managing companies because I got some townhomes in Kansas with a really good property manager down there. And we just transitioned into Arrow on some stuff we have here in town. I got a rock star leasing agent right now, so she kind of is managing my houses and doing other stuff, but she just gets really good rent. And we're kind of going the opposite of everybody else, where we're being personable with the new tenants, and that just helps us get better rent.
Mm.
And then I have a maintenance guy. So I mean, it's
A
the bigger
mixture.
stuff I have rolled over to property managers.
Yeah.
And then kind of the houses, I just have kind of an in-house team do it.
At what point did you extend that way? Because I'm assuming, the first few houses, it wasn't like that. At what point did you decide, you know what, I need to get a property management in here?
I mean, houses are pretty easy.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. It's just a building. I mean, I kind of look at everything on a case by case basis. Like if this is like my gal who cleans also manages my Airbnbs. And it's just, to me, it's like we have a 26 units off of 12th and 13th and A and B, and it's like that's right by Arrow's office. It's a good project for Arrow to have it.
Yeah.
I don't want to take all that.
That
on.
makes, wow, I like that approach. So
And
they're
so it's
right
just a
across
matter
the
of,
street.
yeah, you try to play to other people's strengths and know your own weaknesses. I'm not good at managing property.
Man, love it. No, that's awesome. So at what point did you scale it from, because you started with a single family. So when was that milestone that you hit your, maybe your first duplex or fourplex or
Well, I like to wholesale stuff before I own it, honestly, because you learn a lot. So
mm,
I actually got a sixplex years ago, and I wholesaled it to a guy. Well, I took on a partner, but I took an acquisition fee on it, and then we flipped it together. And it's just thing like I was talking about in the beginning. I was like, I mean, the flip we made like 50K. Then I think I made like 10 on the wholesale. So I made 10 up front, then 25 at the end, and like all we had to do was some paint and rent it out, and that bumped up the value so much that it was like the easiest flip I did, and it was like a gimme 50K. It took us like a month. Like
mm,
it's like, oh, maybe I should look at doing more of these.
yeah.
So that kind of opened my eye, and then it's just a matter of finding more of those.
Wow,
they're
I
not-
love that.
they're not the
You
easiest to
said
find.
wholesale things before I own it. That's definitely one way to get your foot in the door and learn a little more about what you're about to get into. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, wholesaling teaches you a lot. I mean, and you get to talk to a bunch of cash investors usually, and you get a million different opinions. I mean, once you do that for a long time, it's nice having all these other investors' opinions that you get, and you just learn from almost every little detail.
Mm, man, I love that. There's a couple things that I would like to touch on. You said even that first house that you kind of brought something to the investor, the older investor. Can you give me a little more information on how important is it to bring something to the table, we'll say, because that you solved somebody's problem and then now you had somebody that was able to help you. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I mean, that's what we're doing in this whole business. It's like you're solving problems. Like, and you get paid, in perspective of the problems you solve. The bigger problem you solve, the more you get paid. So, I mean, I just saw a guy who had a bunch of vacancies, and I was like, that's a problem because vacancies eat into your cash flow. The guy's got 100 units and 17 vacancies. He can't be making no money. So I just, would tried to help him. And like, I remember like he was tiling his floor at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night after we were having coffee. And this dude was like 70 years old. And I'm like, man, I'll go help you with that. Like I was, 28 at the time or something, 30. And I'm like, I can help you with that. I'm going to be better suited for that than you. It's just doing the right thing. And I had time at that point. So I was like, I'll do whatever I can to help you out so I can learn like ins and outs of the business of what it's like owning 100 properties in town. And I mean,
Man,
if you see a problem and you have the means to solve it, I mean, I think we're all kind of ingrained to do that. Humanity's kind of ingrained to do that. If you kind of listen to your subconscious and just, you see a problem, you know how to solve it. I mean, you see litter on the ground, pick it up, man. Just pick it up and throw it away. It ain't gonna kill you.
man.
That's it.
That's true. That you touched on a lot of different things in there. I love that. And yeah, especially, I think that's where the problems come from is if you don't have a system or a way to put yourself in different areas at once. We were just talking about that off air and just kind of hearing that story from that landlord. It's like that's one place to tile out of, however many units he had to do at that time. So it's and if we could kind of head into that, because obviously you're practicing that, and we were just talking about it off air, how it is tough when all you know is hard work. And I relate to that because that's what we were taught, right? Like hard work pays off. So I think that you can't let go of that pedal, right? Like I think once you get to certain levels, like you have to remind yourself, well, hard work is what got me here. But I also feel like you do have to do hard work, and then you're able to build an empire where you can pick and choose your battles, I think. And so if you could give me your perspective on that.
Oh, it's just, would you rather work hard or work smart? I mean, and I've known construction, it's a 25, I started making like 25 an hour. Now, the trade's worth like 50. And I mean, it was very hard to break out of that because all I knew, like, you get up, you go to work. I used to frame houses and frame apartments, and we would get up, go to work unless it was -10 or colder wind chill. And I would work every day, and that's just what we did. Like, so in order to like break out of that, I just had to just keep educating myself, keep looking for people that had done it, came before me and that are killing it in real estate, because I knew in real estate you can make a really high number per hour. I knew in real estate you can make way more money than construction work. Like, it's just so I slowly had to transition out of that. And it was like every time I was working, I was listening to podcasts. When I was finishing a basement, I'd be listening to podcasts on real estate, how to negotiate deals.
How old were you at that time?
I was about 30. It was about 10 years ago.
Okay. So 10 years ago. So that was way before kind of like the first few deals.
Yeah. Well, I educated myself a lot before I finally did a deal. It probably took me, 6 to 12 months. I don't really remember. From the time I was at a seminar learning exactly what wholesaling was, I was like, I can do this. Until I finally did a deal. It was a while. I'm a slow implementer.
No
progress.
No, well, you say that, but I think that was fast. That's awesome. We've been spitting fire without even, if you could tell us a little bit about, because I would like to dissect your story. Like, we've kind of made it to where you're at right now, but where are you from?
I'm from the middle of Nebraska, Johnson Lake, and I went to school. I mean, I played 8-man football. My senior class had 16 people in it. We were like a tight-knit group. I went to college at a community college in Hastings, had a daughter when I was my sophomore year of college. And I didn't know what I was going to do in college, but I just kept working construction. I mean, I worked for my shop teacher in high school in the summers where we were actually flipping houses on Johnson Lake. I didn't know it at the time. I was just doing what I was told. But like, turn around, he was making like 100K. Like, you're a smart dude. Like, in the summer, you know, we're just doing additions in the summer.
Yeah.
And, you know, then I worked for another guy in college, and I just had no idea what I wanted to do. And
What were you going to college for?
I have a degree in Cisco networking and electronic technology, an associate's of applied science degree. If never used it once, didn't matter.
Would you do it again?
I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed college a lot. It was a lot of fun. Met a lot of cool people.
Shout out to Owen. He made a point because I'm probably the biggest, like, I'm against college. Like, you know, I'll sit here and argue that, but you know what? Owen made a great point that I never thought about. And he said people don't look at the relationships that college will build. And it's so true because I can't sit here and say, hey, you know, I have my college buddies that we hang out and, you know, so that was awesome. And I bet you even from those relationships, because you're a little older than high school, so you would think the maturity is a little bit more there. So, you know, so anyways, after he said that, I'm like, all right, dude, I'm going back to college.
Sounds fun. Maybe
shout out to Owen.
It's I mean, my daughter's in college. I was against it. I think, like, how are you supposed to know what you're going to do when you're 18, 19, 20 years old? I mean, I don't know how you're supposed to know what you're supposed to do.
And what's the teaching like with that? Obviously we're going to back up our kids, right? Like we're going to have their back, but what was the teaching like with your daughter about college? Like what was said, you know, about college?
Well, she was going. She wasn't going to listen.
So she made up her mind already. So, okay.
And it was COVID year. I mean, I was like, just take a break year, you know, take a gap year. It was 2020, you know, it's like perfect year to take it. But she had her mind made up, which
is good.
I mean, 18-year-old girls, after like 14, they don't listen to nothing. But I mean, she was really good. Got a lot of scholarships. I don't think she's got any loans, and she's going to Spain in January.
That's awesome.
So I think I'm on board with that. I was like, that's great. But like, a lot of these people are paying, you know, whatever it is, 30 grand a year for relationships. And like, what can you find online for free? The online education for free, 90% of the time, it's going to be better than the college professor that hasn't really done what he's teaching. Like there's certain things like
they're like, you know, the fake gurus online.
I mean, you got to get certified. Lawyers, doctors, you got to go to college, but the rest of it, I mean, it's tough to justify the bill.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think just a great reminder for everybody listening, we're in the greatest nation on earth. And it's like, you have the opportunity to choose. And when I say college, like, it's not like, you know, obviously I would hope that my doctor is going, you know, went to college, so he knows what he's doing. So I definitely respect that. And I agree with that. I think that for certain professions, like, you obviously have to go. But the nice thing is we're in this great nation where you could go become a doctor and start your own office, you know, and kind of build an empire from there. So totally agree. But I didn't mean to, anyways, you mentioned college, but so if you could go back to your story and kind of move on from just the college, like you got your business degree and what happened?
Which did like nothing. I just kept working construction because I didn't like I just wasn't into it. And I was into construction. I moved to Lincoln when I was 21. I went to Central Community College in Hastings
Why did you move to Lincoln?
I just didn't like the town. I was bored to death. I didn't like the people. I didn't have, you know, the friends I wanted. Like there's a lot of friends I liked in Lincoln, and it just felt like the right thing to do. The opportunities I thought were greater, and there was just more to do. And I was 21, and I just couldn't take where I was living and just the people I was around. So I decided to move to Lincoln.
Shout out to the Tri-Cities, man. I have a lot of like some following out there with my music and stuff. Grand Island and Hastings and Kearney and
yeah, I mean, Kearney's really blown up.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I used to go to Kearney a lot in high school, and it's really blown up. But it's it's not
Do you
Lincoln.
own anything in that area?
I have a cabin out at the out at it's right by Johnson Lake, Plum Creek Canyon. It's called. It's like a private. It's about a mile from Johnson Lake. It's just a private little spot where we got a beach and a dock, and it's on Airbnb if you want to check it out. But I bought it with a buddy. My best friend lives out in Colorado, and it just kind of came. I mean, my brother-in-law, like his buddy owned it, who we knew as well, and it, just kind of got it from a friend of a friend deal. But I think we got it at lot price or a little less, and so we just kind of threw some furniture in it and Airbnb it out, and it's kind of nice because my immediate family is getting real big. My sister's got like 6 kids, my brother's got a couple, and by the time we're all back at my parents' house, like it's a little much, so I just stay in the cabin now. It's kind of
nice.
nice
That's
for a little
awesome.
space. It keeps me fresh.
That's awesome. So you got to Lincoln, and you left the small town for the big city in Lincoln.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's the way I felt.
Yeah, seriously. And Lincoln has just grown tremendously. But while you were in Lincoln, so once you made it here, did you start working in construction again, and you kept that going?
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, all these framing crews were hiring, so I got on a framing crew with a guy, and he was actually from Hastings, so I think I applied for an ad or something, but he kind of went crazy. I remember him yelling at me because I couldn't hear the measurement he was calling out, and then he just like had a meltdown on me because I was like, "What? I can't hear you." And then he had a meltdown, and I was like, "All right, I'm done," and I just walked off. And he's like, "Dave, where are you going?" I was like, "I'm done, dude. I'm writing you my address so you can send my last check." I literally opened the door to his car, wrote my address down, and it's like, "What am I gonna do now?" I was like, "I don't know, man."
With your
But I can't take
construction
it.
background, David, have you noticed, because I was just having this conversation literally yesterday, how I'm not letting, because me owning that construction company, like I'm not letting it dictate whether I'm going to be stressed or not. Because if you let it, like construct, if you want to get stressed, if you're looking for the real stress in the world, go work construction, own a construction company. Because it's as little as like when you go to Menards or any store locally. Those of you who are listening outside of Nebraska, it's basically Home Depot, right? Like sometimes you'll go 10 times just for that one little thing that you can't get right. And I'm sure you can relate to that. And those are the things, like I'm okay with it because I know what I signed up for. But if you tell most people, they're gonna be like, "You're crazy, right? Like, what are you doing?" And the conversation that I was having was when we started, it was mostly just a roofing company. But I knew, I didn't want to name it anything roofing because I knew I wanted to grow it into building a house, basically. And I remember. His name was Jeff, man. Shout out to Jeff if you're listening, Jeff. And he was 60 something years old. And anyways, he taught me. He was like a mentor in the roofing industry. But I swear, every chance he could, man, he would just get stressed out and go off. And I'm just like, whoa, man, like what has this done to and he did, all his life was roofing. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you can be stressed about anything. Stress is just in your head. But like in construction, it's real easy because it's kind of about speed. Like the faster you frame a house, you're getting paid to frame the house. So the faster you do it, the more you get paid. But so when you're doing something for a full day and all of a sudden you realize there was a mistake and like all that work you did, like it didn't really matter, and you got to go fix some stuff. Like that's a very frustrating thing. And like I've seen a lot of tool belts fly. I mean, man, I was working on the craziest framing crew in town. This guy was running an ad for like 5-10 years. And I mean, there was just a lot of crazy stuff. Everybody was frustrated all day long just because we were never fast enough. And it was just a constant hurry up, you're too slow. Everybody getting yelled at every day. So it's easy to get frustrated.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. And what are some stuff that you do? Because one thing you mentioned that hit me hard was the bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the money. And obviously, the bigger the problem you have to solve for that money, the more stress. What are some ways that you deal with stress nowadays?
you just try to flip. I mean, I think I've developed a really solution mindset. Like you get a problem, and you have to look at your problems as good things. Like one of the worst things that'll happen in your life. Like when I was 19 years old and I realized I have a daughter from a girl that I'm married with, like, I thought that was going to be the worst problem in my life, but it turns out it was like, she's taught me so much. It's made me into the person I am. Like everything turned out really, really great. So who are you to judge your problems? Like you think you got a problem today, but wait 6 months, wait 6 years. Like, is that, look at your problems in the past and realize, wow, this, those were actually really great things that happened to me. So now you get a problem today. I don't even like using the word problem. It's a situation.
I use struggle.
So you in a situation. Well, this is just a situation I get to solve, and this will make me better when I figure out how to solve it. So my brain automatically goes to the solution. Like something comes up, it's like, what's the solution? I don't care about the situation. It's just a temporary situation. What's the solution? And you just focus on nothing but the solution. And I mean, I've seen a Dean Graziosi book up there. Like I learned a lot from that guy. He used to be in his 25K groups. And like, he was always the analogy of, when somebody spills milk on your floor, like, are you just going to sit there and be like, oh man, who spilled this milk? Like, what are you guys doing? No, you go and you wipe it up. Solution, and it's done. Like all your problems are pretty much like that. You go figure it out, figure out how to make the most out of it. I mean, there's always bigger problems out there. And people have it way worse than us. I mean, we don't really have problems in America. Like I mean,
yeah,
you're first generation
immigrant,
right? Like, man, I'm guessing your daily life when you wake up today, like you don't have, your problems are pretty small compared to what they used to be, right?
No, for sure. No, you know what? That's so crazy you bring that up. I talk about that on my book because it's actually, I was telling you earlier that I went with the client earlier, look at some concrete work that we're doing here in Lincoln, and I saw a book sitting there, so I brought up my book and we just started talking, and that was one of the conversations we had, was because he's like, oh my God, I love the title of your book. He's like, that I'm gonna order it, send me the link or whatever. And he just built his house while he was living in it, and like it was a cool story. Like his story was just awesome. Like he's like, I order stuff from Menards. He's like, once it was somewhat livable, he's like, I mean, it didn't have walls, and I'm like, wow. And so he's like, that reminds, no, it's crazy. Yeah. And he was like, it reminded me of how comfortable we have gotten in America. Yeah. And so, he started telling me about that. And so one analogy that I use, it's like, even like people take it for granted. Like my mom used to turn a fire, right? Like to cook. And here it's like, you turn a switch and you got fire. And the microwave, if you don't want to cook, just throw it in the microwave, right? Like, that's what makes America beautiful. But people don't, it seems like people forget those little things. We're so caught up in the comfortable that, and I hate the word comfortable, by the way. I like to use happy. I'm happy where I'm at, because I think you could always be practicing the power of being uncomfortable to get to the next level. And there's always that higher mountain anyway. So it's 100%. Like, be happy. Yeah. So I love that. With the problems, like, I love your solution. And it's so true, man. There's so many people that sit there and just, that, like, going back to that milk, like, oh my God, what milk? And that's what I do with my kids. It's like, hey, pick it up. Like, let's get it over with. Like, you could sit there and cry, or
or you can yell at your kids about it. But yelling at your kid, I mean, is that really going to do any good when they have an accident? Like, everybody makes mistakes. Just fix it. Yeah. How can we fix it?
Yeah. When did that entrepreneurship bug hit you or bit you? I always say hit you. I always mean hit you.
I think it's just been with me pretty much my whole life. Even when I was younger, like, I inherited this mowing business from my brother because he went off to college and he had these clients. So I got to, like, mow lawns, and like I got paid decent for what I did. I wasn't real passionate about it or nothing, but like I had to make myself do it. But like I started as an entrepreneur, and then once I got a regular job, I'd worked there long enough to be like, I would just see different ways of doing it and think like, well, I could do it better. And then I'm working at a framing job in Lincoln for like 4 years, and I'd give these guys ideas, and because I jumped around from a couple different framing crews, so I got different ideas, and I gave these guys, and they actually listened, and I was working there, and I got, kind of comfortable, but I don't like being comfortable, and no good things come from being comfortable. So like I decided to go off on my own just because like there was just I didn't like being comfortable. Some people like being comfortable. Some people are employees. I mean, you can look up the stat of who. I think there's just a certain thing you're born with to be an entrepreneur. I think it's only like 12 or 15% or something of people that are actually entrepreneurs. And I mean, there's a lot of people today that entrepreneurs all like this new sexy thing, and there's a lot of opportunities. You can make money on YouTube tomorrow. And I mean, there's a lot of opportunities, but certain people I know a lot of people like they're just have an employee mindset. Like they got side gigs, but they're not afraid to take that jump and put it all on me. But I guess my favorite thing about entrepreneurship is who to blame. Like when you're not having success, who to blame. Like it's up to me. So I know who to blame. I can control that, and I know whose fault it is. I know who to yell at. Yeah. And I guess control and freedom was a huge thing. I was more free this way. I could control more things, and that's, ultimately what just led me to be an entrepreneur, which I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. My last job was 15 years ago.
It's almost like you're describing it, but what is the American dream to you?
Freedom, being able to do, what you want when you want, being able to, I'm at a point where I really want to help others. So I really appreciate you having me on, because hopefully people can take my story and help others. So I'm getting too comfortable. Like this whole being on podcast.
You keep looking at the book.
The power. I hate being comfortable. This being on a podcast makes me uncomfortable. So I'm trying to figure out ways to get more uncomfortable. Because I just got this new sauna. So I wake up, I get to go to the sauna in my garage, and it's just like, I bought that so I wouldn't get comfortable. Like that's something I can be uncomfortable every day. I think you should do something that makes you uncomfortable every single day, or you just get soft and you don't get as sharp, and you're not being your best self.
Yeah. I posted a video a couple of days ago with the weather. I was like probably the coldest day out of the week so far, because I look at it every morning. And it's funny, normally below 20, I'll jump on my treadmill because I love running outside. But it was like 16, I want to say 15, 16 or something.
Wind chill's probably cold.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? And so I got out there, man. This whole week I ran outside and I made a video pointing that out. Like, hey, let's get uncomfortable. Like this is uncomfortable. But and it's that mindset that we need to get over, that, oh, you're going to get sick. You're going to, that comfortable thinking, right? Like, but little do people know, like actually shocking your body in the cold is actually a great thing, right? 100%. Like it's like the opposite of what we were taught. So I love that you're touching on all that. And since we're in the subject, one of the questions I ask every guest is, what was one way that you practiced the power of being uncomfortable, like my book, that paid off? And I'm obviously, in your success, there's many ways, right? Like there's many ways that you have to get uncomfortable to get to where you're at. But what pops to your head when you hear that question? What's the first answer?
Repeat the question.
So basically, what is one way that you got uncomfortable, that you practiced the power of being uncomfortable, that paid off and got success out of it?
I was afraid to talk to strangers. Like I was afraid to make a phone call. Now everybody's afraid to do something for the first time. Most people are afraid to do something for the first time. So you just gotta, the more I attack uncomfortable, the better human being I become. So I'm trying to switch, and this is something I work on a lot, is trying to switch my brain to, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. Go do it. Just go do it right away. And then it's even better. Like I love doing these. We'll do these 30-day challenges with a couple guys where we ran 100 miles in March this year.
Man,
and like
talk about getting uncomfortable.
You got 30 days.
Love it.
You got 30 days, but like, you don't have to run every day, but if you don't, like, there's huge consequences. And then we had a little group text going on, but it was awesome. I mean, you can walk them, but you got to be outside. Like, it was cold. I mean, I had some ice in my beard, but yeah, you run to the cold, you don't get colds. I didn't get a cold coming out of last winter at all, because you shock your system, like you said.
Man, I love that. That was a great answer. And so the $1 Million Hustle podcast, and I want to say this is probably the first time I kind of mentioned it. Well, I probably threw jabs here and there, but it's actually a book that I'm going to write. And it's basically habits of how to become a millionaire, we'll say, because, and, you know, I've had kind of fighting between, like, I just don't like the whole millionaire and all that. But I think if that's what I got to do to get somebody's attention to listen and hopefully change their life, then that's what I'm going to do. And so I'm kind of giving the rundown or the story behind that. So that way I can ask you this question, because I feel like all the habits are probably going to be the same. The power of being uncomfortable is actually a habit in the $1 Million Hustle. And so what are some habits, if you had to give me, we'll say 5 habits, in order for you to get on your $1 Million Hustle to become a millionaire? What are the 5 habits that come to your head?
I'm not great at all these either, but I mean, waking up early. I mean, you can just look at all other millionaires, like, and figure out what they do. So I would say waking up early, continuing education. For sure. Like, you don't get too old to learn new things. Masterminds are a big thing. I know you say you got a mastermind that you just started a while ago. So that's awesome. Just being around, I mean, like-minded people, putting yourself in proximity is power. Another, exercise. Health is very important. I mean, exercise and eating right. If you don't exercise and eat right, like I think it's Jesse Itzler said, we got one job to stay healthy. You don't do that job, you're in trouble. So it's like you got one job. So stay healthy. I mean, what's lost today, especially with contractors, is do what you say you're gonna do. I mean, if I had to boil it down to one thing, why I get a lot of deals brought to me now is because I just do what I say I'm gonna do. I don't say I'm gonna close at this price and then come back with a bullshit answer of why I didn't close at this price. Like, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. Now, there's excuses and there's reasons. You know, if you got a real reason, you got to be careful you don't justify it and switch them, because there's kind of a fine line. But, like, there's certain reasons, like inflation or the rates going up. That's a reason why all of a sudden, you know, a $2.5 million apartment building is not worth $2.5 million, because when the rates jump from 4 to 7%, like, I'm looking at my mortgage calculator every day now. Like, that's a reason, because, like, that's $2,000-$3,000 different in your mortgage payment. Like, there goes all your profit.
Yeah.
You can't pay that. So that's a reason. So, you know, we're using that in negotiations now. That's a main thing. And finding buyers is important right now.
You have the crystal ball right now in your hand, and it's something that I was telling you off air that I was going to ask you. And you mentioned you've done this before. Like I said, you're the Kiyosaki, right? Like, you said you've done it before, where you kind of see the market. So what are we looking at right now? And this will air probably around February, just so you know. So it's, you know, 2-3 months from now. But what's going on, or even January? Like, what's 2023? What are we looking at?
Well, I mean, the things I'm trying to do now is solve problems, which the biggest problem is these rising interest rates. And the biggest problem is buyers are being limited. Now, sellers still think their house is worth X, but it's just flat out not, and the inventory is picking up. So that I'm working on solving the interest rate problem, which is finding more money cheaper. I mean, my girlfriend's in California. She runs a business in Qatar, and those guys have, like, you know, 50 million cash sitting around. So we're talking to those guys because in every wholesale deal, you should ask, who's it worth the most to? And when people can't get access to cash here in America, everybody's leveraged, and all of a sudden our percentage is costing us, you know, the money's costing way more. So we have to figure out that problem. So that's what we're working on now. Where do I see the market going is, I don't know when these interest rates are going to come down. I don't think they're going to come down that soon. And inventory is spiking. And rule number one of business is supply and demand. So we've just had a supply shortage and a high demand because money's been cheap for a long time. And all of a sudden it's switching where the demand is going down because of these high interest rates and the supply is going up because people are selling their house for whatever reason. Now, I don't think there'll be a lot of foreclosures, but I don't know where the market's going. All I know is supply is coming up and demand is going down. So the market's going down. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I talked to our title company and he said we had a slowdown in June this year of transactions, just all transaction. And I said, when's the last time you've seen a slowdown in June? He's like, never. I've been here 25 years. So he didn't see a slowdown in June in like 08 here in Lincoln, which is crazy. So, and every year the market slows down in winter. So I'm just being very cautious about what I'm buying right now. Don't buy it unless it cash flows. And, you know, I think we're in for a hard winter, a long winter. You got something on the market, like you're in a tough position right now. And we're negotiating good deals with sellers right now because of the supply and demand issue.
With that, David, what are some stuff that you're doing? Because you talked about it a little earlier that you kind of do what the market tells you to do. Mm-hmm. So what is it telling you to do right now?
Well, I think about buying more houses because I think the inventory's ticking up. I mean, there's a house for sale at Capitol Beach for like $270,000. It's a nice house, all staged, real fancy, like double garage. Like that thing would be gone at $300,000 last year. So all of a sudden that thing's been on the market like 6 months. I was just looking at it. I was like, the market's telling me houses are getting cheaper. I mean, apartments are, they're tough to make cash flow. So I think right now a house is easier to make cash flow because you can get, you know, $150,000 house, put $25,000 into it, rent it out at $2,000. And even with the high interest rates, it's a lot easier. So we're doing that. We've had real good luck. Not underestimating rent. Like we put things, I mean, I put a townhouse for rent for $2,900, which is no business being, but like we had options where we could sell it or rent it. And like I got a rent for like $2,700 and some, and like there's rent comps in the area for $2,000, $1,800. But we're real personal with our tenants and we try to do really well with communications and fix problems really fast. So apparently we're justifying that price because somebody's willing to pay it. I mean, there's nothing more true than the pricing mechanism of the marketplace. So you keep looking at, I mean, just study the market, figure out what's selling for what. I mean, all of a sudden we have a ton of houses in between 100 and 200 grand right now. So the market's telling me I can get a deal where I couldn't do that for the last 3-4 years. Like it was very difficult. So the market's telling me it's easy to buy rental houses right now because there's so much supply and there's a lot of vacant houses sitting. And keep buying apartments because there's going to be people over leveraged. There's builders that are over leveraged. I mean, new builds are really high in Omaha. I noticed there's a ton on the market today. And that hasn't been the case in years.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of stuff in Omaha too?
No, I just happened to be talking to a guy this morning and checking inventory, and that is a lot for sale. And he's got a bunch of stuff coming to the market, so I'm like trying to figure out how to solve his problem. And, you know, that's inventory's beginning the problem. If you got, you know, 10, 20 houses sitting empty, like you got a problem, and what's the best thing to solve it? Well, rents are still high. Yeah. And talking to bankers have nothing to do. That's another problem. They got nothing to do. Well, reach out to your banker. Hey, you got anybody who's got an assumable mortgage you can try out? I mean, try to get an assumable mortgage at 3.5%, 4%. Like that's huge. You can pay somebody way more money for their house. Everybody, I mean, that's going to be a huge thing the next year. Doing those sub 2 deals. I mean, assuming mortgages, like that's the easiest way to make a deal work now.
There's definitely a lot of loops that we have to be mindful of nowadays. Do you think that the last 2 years was almost like a fantasy though for real estate?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Like it wasn't real, but like they just were printing money and it was low interest rates. So everybody was buying.
Yeah. And
I mean,
especially, I mean, the lowest interest rates we've ever seen, pretty much. And
yeah.
so I read a meme the other day or something, or on a page or something, that they were just saying how, like, oh, it's 7% right now. And again, this is currently in November. They're like, oh, 7%. That's cute. You know, it was 18% or whatever
Yeah.
back in
In
what,
the
the
80s.
80s or something. But obviously, the house was 40 grand at that time too. So,
Yeah.
but I think overall, um, would you agree with this too, that this is also opportunity for, I think, out of this whole thing that, the recession, whatever we want to call it, I think there's also going to be a lot of rich people coming out of it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of good deals all of a sudden. There's always going to be motivated sellers in the market. People get divorced every day. People die
Mm,
every day. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, bad news for one person is good news for somebody else. Like people are in a bad situation. I mean, the houses are costing money just sitting there. You got a vacant house, it costs you real money to
mm,
maintain. Now you got to winterize it or keep heat on. I mean, there's a lot of houses sitting on the market, so that's a big opportunity for anybody in real estate. Like, solve the seller's problem. How can you solve the seller's problem?
mm,
I mean, you can take it out, put a tin in there, or I mean, you can make a deal with the seller to fix it up right now. You got a construction company, I'll be trying to make deals with sellers of like, I want this house cheap, I can fix it, or I mean, it's doing you no good, it's costing you money to sit vacant. So yeah, there's opportunity in every market.
mm. Man, yeah, love it, man. That's a great way to put it. Overall, when you think of your story, David, what are some things that you would do different, and what are things that you would continue doing?
I mean, I screwed up a lot of things, but like, I don't really regret any of it. Like, you start trying to figure out what you shouldn't have done. Well, it goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's like those were the problems. I shouldn't have done that. Well, that made me learn a lot better. Like when I screw something up, and the harder the mistake hurts, the better I learn from it.
Mm,
And I think that's just the way we're wired. So I don't really anything to do different. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different things. I mean, acquisitions and raising money is the two highest producing activities you can do in real estate. So I would have figured out, and I still don't know how to raise private money very well at all. It's not my bag, but I should be doing more of that and just figuring out how to acquire properties cheaper. Just focus on those two things more.
mm. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, that's definitely great things that you definitely have to be mindful of when you get into real estate. What are some things you've learned just raising capital overall? What are some pointers and pros and cons again that you could give out?
I don't do a lot of it, but the best deals I have, we were able to raise like private money from my buddy's dad. Were They're like two of the best deals I've done. So I should be doing more of that. But like, yeah, we had to raise like 360 grand for a down payment on a 40-unit apartment building in York, and we got that. We paid it off early. Um, but that deal netted us 225K in 11 months, and that was on a refinance, so the tax implications were pretty good, and it's cash flowing now. So I mean, just a home run. And we have
Hmm.
another deal we did where we had to raise, just be direct with what you want. I mean, I'm not an expert on this. Take my advice, what you want, but if you got to know exactly what you want, and be direct with it. That's the best way of doing it. Because yeah, we partnered up on some townhomes in Manhattan, Kansas, and they're just flat out home run, just cash flowing like crazy, and they're the easiest. We get no complaints. I get no noise from tenants there. My property manager is great, and we had to raise some. I think 360 times three is what we had to raise, whatever that is.
Mm.
1.8 oh, 1,080,000. We had
Wow.
to raise that, but we did it in a few weeks. I mean, just kept running it by people.
Wow. The hustle, man. I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. You mentioned your daughter. Do you have any other kids, married? Like, what's your personal life like?
I'm 40. I've never been married. I got a 12-year-old son. It's just a blast, and I got a 20-year-old daughter who lives not very far from me now. So it's nice. They keep me real balanced. They're like complete opposites. The 12-year-old's finally starting to be like, I don't want to hang out with you as much. I want to
Yeah,
hang with my
too
friends.
cool.
But they're great. I mean, my girlfriend lives in California, Orange County right now. She's coming up tomorrow.
Nice.
So we're kind of doing a long distance relationship, but it's been really good. It's a lot of fun. Um, what else do you want to know? I live in a big Airbnb. That keeps me uh, entertained, I guess.
I bet.
It's just a
That's
big house that I feel I got at land value, and
nice.
I mean I can almost cover my expense. I don't even really try to Airbnb it because I don't like staying at hotels and moving my stuff. I have a big locked area with all my stuff, but
Mhm.
I got a big sloppy
Put a
mastiff dog.
studio in there, man.
What's that?
Put a studio in there.
Yeah, I got plenty of room, but it works pretty well for what it is, and it's
Yeah.
it's like a medieval place. I like it.
Love it, man. Love it, love it. And what's happiness to you, man? What does happiness mean?
Progress. I mean, to me, if we're not progressing, then I just get irritated, and that's you know every area. You should be healthier than you were. I mean, I'm 40, but I'm still trying to be in the best shape of my life. I think I am in the best shape of my life, so I want to have progress there. And at some point, that's probably gonna trail off. But Brady, he's doing it,
There you
doing what he's
go.
doing. So I'm just looking to people that keep their health up. There's a lot of older guys that like are amazing when it comes to health. So just progressing in every areas of my life. Becoming a better father. You got kids, you learn stuff every day. And so just progress to me is super important. If we don't have progress, there's problems.
Mm, man, love it, love it. And as much as I hate it, man, we got to wrap it up. But I always ask the last same kind of questions to it, all the guests that we have. And the first question that I have for you is, if you were to look at your younger self right now, what is one piece of advice you would give yourself?
I would just say believe in yourself more. Um, it's still something I'm struggling with. Just don't waste time. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't know if you wake up tomorrow. So try not to waste any time. Make the most of your time every day. Stay present. I mean, just develop tiny little habits every day. That's all you
Love
can
it,
do.
love it, love it. And if there was a 3-step formula to success, and you do these 3 things, you're not gonna fail. You're gonna be successful. What are the 3 things?
I mean, health, continuing education, and doing what you say you're going to do. I would say, like you figure those things out, you're good.
Love it, man. Love it, love it. And if you were to write a book, what would be the theme and title of that book?
I don't know. um, uh, to me, it's probably. I've been in real estate so long, so it would probably be real estate related. I think that would help out the most people. I would have to figure out a way to do what I thought would help the most people, and then you're gonna just you're gonna sell the most books, honestly. So I would probably, I mean, when you solve somebody's financial crisis, it really helps them out. So I would have to intertwine real estate and health somehow and figure that out. But I don't know. I got a long ways to go before I write a book.
Huh?
I got enough problems. I got to solve situations. I got to solve myself before I write a book. To me.
There you go. Love it, man. And what's your, and I'm kind of just throwing this question out there, just a bonus question. What is the way for you that you think people could solve their financial problem? Like, what would you tell somebody that's stuck right now? Because I think anything negative, I can point it back to money. And it's not that, right? Like, money is everything, you know, but it's very important. Like
Yeah.
you could literally, if you have 10 problems, I bet you 9 of them at least are money related. So if you focus on that, I think you can make your life easier. So what would you say to somebody?
I mean, yeah, if you can write a check for the problem, it's not a problem. And a lot of problems, if people today, like if they could write a check, that wouldn't be a problem. But to me, you just got to really monitor your daily habits. Like when you go into a house and you see a tenant, I mean, they've, we used to see dog poop all over the floor. These are just, the whole house is a shit show,
Yeah,
and there's stuff
literally.
everywhere. They've just, they've let their habits go. It's like they decided not to pick up the dog shit today. And then that just grew into a bunch. And
Mm,
so you just got to try to monitor your habits and figure out, where you can get better every day.
mm.
But it's bad habits, all it is just a little tweak in your habits. Start small. And I mean, just with money, there's so much free information out there today. So if you got money problems, I mean, Google money problems, and,
Yeah.
listen to a bunch of podcasts like this, like figure out what you want to do,
Yeah.
figure out what you're passionate about, and go do that on the side. And that'll solve a lot of your problems. If
Mm.
you're super passionate about something, you're going to figure out a way to monetize it.
Love it, man. That's deep right there. And it's so funny. I couldn't help but think when you were mentioning the shitty show, right? Like the shit show that literally. I heard this concept years back that however your house, however messy your house is, or even your car, is how your brain is, how your mindset is, and if it is a shit show, then that's what's going in your mind. So I think that could even be a one way to start, right? To
Yeah,
clean your house and pick
100%.
up put things where they go. So I love that. That's I don't know, it just reminded me of
Yeah,
that.
I got to work on that when I get home too.
There you go. Oh, we all do, man. We all do. What is one way that people can get a hold of you, your social medias and all that?
Uh, yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do much on social media. I like the local meetups. I've been missing them. Been out of town a lot lately. But Facebook and Instagram. I don't even remember my Instagram handle. DBADMCHS, I think. It's my Instagram handle. But yeah, just hit me up on Facebook and Instagram. Probably the easiest.
Love it, man. Well, David, I want to thank you, man, for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and this has been awesome. I can't wait. I have notes, and I can't wait to listen to it again and take some notes. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, man. And everybody out there listening, make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel at Believe the Kid, DHAKIDD. And matter of fact, wherever you're listening to this on Spotify, wherever, YouTube, wherever, screenshot where you're listening and tag us, and we're gonna reshare that so that way we could spread awareness, man. Because this is what life is all about. If you could sit there and think for this hour of this episode, you could literally change your life just if you pick up one little thing. So that's what we're trying to do with this show. So make sure you guys follow us at $1,000,000 Hustle Pod, and then at Billy the Kid on Instagram. Other than that, we'll see you next time.
What's going on with your the mentor group? Your
Oh, the men. Yeah. Actually, we're
what's going
meeting
on with
tonight. Actually, I was about to be like, all right,
the
peace out.
mastermind group. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're meeting tonight. Actually, the mastermind. I was telling you a little bit about it, man, and I'm excited just to see all the guys, the growth that they've done, man.
Yeah.
Maybe you should jump in on one of these so you could just check it out. I'd love some feedback
well,
too.
Well, it was great hearing how you helped a 60-year-old guy and you helped a younger, 20-something too.
Yeah. We have
Very
our
cool
age group
stuff.
is literally from 22 to 60 years old and everything in between. And that's what's awesome because as much as they're learning, I'm learning. And that's what the mastermind is all about. So matter of fact, anybody listening, info at billythekid.com. If you guys want to hear more about it, we've tried to keep it small, but I think we could handle one more person in there if we could change somebody's life, man. And if you haven't, check out the testimonials. They're on my YouTube. I've had the guys just do some testimonials and hear it for yourself. I think if you surround yourself with the right people, you're gonna see a change, right?
For sure, man. Proximity is power. That's how it is.
So thanks for asking, man. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Vámonos.
Keep it going, you gotta trust the process. You who you hang with, and you hanging out with bosses. To hang with us, you gotta be stable, and it's a must to bring something to the table.